Happy Thursday. I hope this is streaming now. Ba-ba-ba. Hi, people out there on the internet. Hope you're doing okay. My name's Blake, if you didn't know that. If you did, then you can read or you know me. And if you know me, give me back my dog. Just kidding, she's down here. Here's she's down here and she's itchy as I'll get out, so you might hear her in the background scratching. Maybe not. But anyways, today we're going to be reacting to Dr. Mike and Dr. Mike Israetel discussing what it's like to be ugly. Which I think of myself, I don't think I'm attractive per se, but I don't think I'm ugly either. But I definitely have felt ugly for a good portion of my life, especially considering how I grew up very, very poor. And sometimes you sort of conflate being poor with being ugly, or you can at least, or at least lesser than. And yeah, I've watched a little bit of this video already, so excuse me for already knowing what I'm about to dive into. Some of the stuff they touch on, I found that I have felt it in my past and how I felt growing up, and I thought it was interesting. So let's dive into it. Let's see what's going on. And yeah, let's do the thing. All right. Here we go. Oh, also, I'm going to have it sped up a little bit to make it a little bit more digestible for my ADHD brain. Okay, let's do it.
I was at a college party once, and there's tons of people in the party, guys, girls, everyone, it's college. There was a poster on the wall. It wasn't very big, but it said "No fat chicks." I remember turning my head at one point during the party,
no
and
fat
I saw
chicks, those
two
are the
girls
best ones.
well away from the picture, and
no fat chicks, those are the best ones, right?
so they were chatting, having fun, and they were both like they were fat. And I'm like,
I'm kidding. I'm just trying to fit in. Is that what straights say? Is that what the straight guys say? Fat chicks rule? I mean, I see those bumper stickers, those mud flaps with the fat women on them.
walk around it. I wondered at the time, and I've wondered many times since, what it would feel like to read that mid-conversation with someone at the party. Like, it can't feel good. By a certain age, if you are not conventionally attractive, or at least like decent, you start to learn, subconsciously or consciously, that all of these things that people live in their lives, romance, interaction, things like that, they're just not for you. That is a giant, unmitigated trend.
Did Dr. Mike do something with his face? There's something different about his face. Am I right? Am I wrong? Something. Maybe he had a facial. Does he have like lip filler or something? His lips look plump as hell. Also, cauliflower ear.
The aesthetic revolution, using biology and technology and all of our best efforts, whatever the hell you brought with your biology, however you look, we're going to make it a little bit better, and then better, and then better, until you look like what you want. And then those people will have a psychological healing that is unprecedented.
That means there's some kind of pre-assumption that those who are unattractive are broken. Do you believe that?
Interesting choice
They can be.
of words by you. Not wrong. Hurt, and thus requiring healing.
On this episode, I welcome back my friend Dr. Mike Israetel. To refresh your memory, he's a bodybuilder with a PhD in sports physiology from East Tennessee State, co-founder of Renaissance Periodization, and a former exercise science professor at Temple University. I was excited to have him back on to speak on his recent decision to undergo plastic surgery, as well as his choice to return to competitive bodybuilding. However, upon the start of our conversation, he mentioned a new book he's written on aesthetics. This led to a lengthy discussion on beauty standards,
It's such an interesting book for Dr. Mike Israetel to write, right? Like, it's such a left turn. Am I wrong? Like, who would have thought that he would write a book about aesthetics?
impact of them on mood, mental health, and even quality of life. Given that this podcast is focused on getting to the truth, regardless of the perspective, I think it's important to note that some of the research I looked at after the conversation shows broad variability on certain claims discussed on the episode. You'll hear some strong takes about the universal beauty rules and preferences. To be fair, there are broad patterns. Symmetry, clear skin, and some sex-typical cues tend to be considered attractive across many groups. But significant cross-cultural research like the International Body Project show body size and shape ideals shift quite a bit with culture, resources, and media influence. There isn't one global template. Even for faces, twin and large sample studies show personal experience drives preferences more than genetics. That being said, attractive people seem to have certain real-world advantages. So Dr. Mike's advice surrounding nutrition and fitness could be valuable from a practical perspective.
We love a disclaimer, right?
We just need to remember an important distinction. While these aesthetic, nutrition, and exercise-driven recommendations can help with mental and cardiometabolic outcomes, purely cosmetic changes show mixed psychological outcomes. and they require screening for conditions like body dysmorphic disorder. That being said, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with the other Dr. Mike. Huge thanks to Incogni for sponsoring this video. Let's get started. Tell me about
Let's go.
the book.
So I just finished a rough draft and submitted it to the editing team.
Okay.
For a book. The editors hated it.
Oh, great.
And they said it needs to be completely
But
different.
that means you're doing the right thing.
I guess.
I think so, because that means you're getting an emotional response.
Yeah. I'm kidding. They didn't say it.
Oh.
No one reads them. No one's ever going to read
No
them.
one reads it. Okay.
But so the book, the working title, and likely the final title, is The Aesthetic Revolution. And so this is some combination
Is this like the golden ratio thing?
yeah, but applied to bodies. Wait, hold
Is that your body you're drawing?
on. No. It was your...
Whose body does this? Sorry, I'm definitely gay, so whose body does this? I don't think anyone's body does that, right? Or women, obviously, but okay, it looks like a gourd.
Okay, got it.
God, I have that many curves?
Well, I don't know. You gave a lot of curves.
There's a lot of
There's
curves.
like calf muscles in there in that curve.
Yeah,
set.
that's my little joke, because like in hip-hop, they do this, like...
Oh, got it.
And then I just expanded it, like the roly-poly body, which I'm a huge fan of.
Is that what the aesthetic revolution has become?
To turn us all into roly-polies, 100%.
Again, look at his face. There's something different about his face. I don't know what it is, but it's like either extra smooth, he just shaved, he's not wearing makeup, I can tell that, but there's something different. Something with his eyes, his lips, and I don't know. Maybe it's just the good lighting in Dr. Mike's studio.
The shell, everything.
Everything.
Okay, so serious note. The Aesthetic Revolution is my attempt to do kind of two things. The book is going to be, hypothetically, although the rough draft is literally this, part practical guide on how to get in shape for visual aesthetics.
Okay.
Part understanding why getting in shape for purely visual aesthetics in most cases makes you way healthier, way better quality of life, way better longevity, and obviously massive psychological benefits. And then the kind of third part is to talk about what we've already figured out how to leverage in biology in order to change your body, but really, and the part I kind of like a lot, is to talk about what's coming down the pipeline in the near term. Like that means drugs, for example, already in phase 2 or 3 trials, and then what's coming in the medium.
So like Ozempic and like I'm guessing like scientific advancements in like plastic surgery?
Term and long term. Long term here is like AI long term, which means 15 years. Anything past that is like difficult to predict.
What was the claim you made on the last podcast that by 2029 we'll have robot servants for homeless people? What, Sam, do
I
you
don't think it
remember?
was 2020. I think I probably said it's likely it's something within 10 years, sometime in the 2030s.
It's a shame that we do podcasts so often that I can't call you on it.
Yeah,
It's been 10 years, yeah.
soon. Yeah.
Do you still stand by that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like, as an example of what robotics will be able to do, categorically, yes. Will the policy situation result in that being the case is much more difficult to predict.
Got it.
But there's
Well, yeah, I mean, we're cutting funding for vaccinations across the globe for children. So.
Do you mean poisons that our children get without consent?
They're not our children either.
Oh no, they're our children.
Oh,
I meant in the grand
the
scheme.
world's
Yes,
children.
children of the world. But yeah, so the aesthetic revolution is, and I guess there's another element to it which I'd love to discuss today, is the emotional component, especially for females, of how it feels to exist in society with a certain type of look, and how differently it can feel and how deep the psychological implications go of existing with another type of look, a look that is much more preferred by mostly women themselves and then the majority of onlookers. To put a fine point on it and start this off with a bang, I'm going to use some terminology here that I mean in all of the best possible ways, but it's going to be ugly, ugly terminology because these are very emotionally laden issues and very real. And so when you present as a male or female, especially as a female, as more or less fundamentally, let me use more scientific parlance. There is a normal distribution, bell curve, about which you can rank general attractiveness. How do you do this? It's super easy. You get like 1,000 people or 10,000 people to just rate pictures of people. Like, do you like this one better or that one? It's just be like just two, one at a time.
I mean, I guess so, but that's very subjective. Like, maybe? I mean, attractiveness is very subjective to the person, right? And the person, the culture, everything.
And what you get from that, if you rate a whole bunch of people, is normally distributed. Most people get rated as like, she looks all right. Some people get rated like, whoa, tough. And some few people get rated like, holy crap, like Scarlett Johansson type of stuff. If you...
Well, won't that change culture?
Nothing wrong with Scarlett Johansson, but I probably wouldn't use her as the... Like, she's gorgeous, duh. But she's definitely not, like, top tier, right? Or what do you think? Opinions?
Culturally?
There are cultural differences, but they're actually smaller than most people expect. And so, like, there is actually not a place in the world where peak Scarlett Johansson can go and be nearly ubiquitously considered unattractive. There are foundational, universal paradigms.
Like, would Scarlett Johansson be considered attractive in, like, the Middle East? Like, in Africa? Is she I don't know. I mean, she's obviously pretty, but still.
Times for attractiveness, and they are human universals in the technical sense that there is no recorded society that violates them en masse. And they're universal probably for genetic reasons as well. And so when you aggregate all of the insight on who is kind of most and least attractive on average, mind you, everyone has their own pick of the litter. What I like best in a female or a male is a little bit different than what most people like, essentially. Everyone has their own. But if you aggregate the big numbers, how you walk through the world, how other people treat you, how you treat yourself in your own head when you look in the mirror, does really depend on where on that spectrum you fall.
And who's doing that research that you're talking about? I've never seen it, because obviously it's not a med school topic. Like
Yeah, who is doing this research? It's really interesting. Like, what scientist is out there doing research on pretty people? Because it feels like it'd be a college student. It feels like it'd be some creep, right? Maybe. I mean, not saying that college students are creeps, but they're kind of creeps.
gets
Like, which one of your patients is more attractive? Like, why does this matter? Like, shut up. Anyway, so here's a picture.
Maybe in a plastic surgery residency.
So there it might matter. Evolutionary psychology generally concerns itself with this. And so they have all kinds of... Evopsych is one of these things where, like, the little bit that most people know about it is like, oh, cookie neat, like we used to be primates or whatever, we still are, and like we have kind of internal drives that make sense. We want to eat, we want to have sex, blah, blah. You dig real deep into that field, you come out reeling a little bit because you're like, that shit is ruthless. And it is exactly as ruthless as many people's experiences with middle school, for example. Because you can...
How would you feel if like a bona fide scientist were to come up to you and be like, sorry, you're on the ugly side of things. You're just too ugly. Or how they were like, oh, you know what? Can I get your number? We're going to write you down as the ugly participant in the study. Is that cool? Are we cool with that? All right.
Tell, for example, you can tell a girl who is 15 years old, now high school, okay, whatever, that is substantially overweight and has mostly android adiposity, which means mostly
Android? Like from Dragon Ball Z? What? That girl was skinny.
body fat around the midsection, thinner legs, thinner arms, and has a pretty substantially notably asymmetrical facial structure with some parts of the face, eyes, nose, mouth, radically different in size relationship to one another. You can tell her all sorts of things about how beautiful she is. And as a human soul, as a being, every single one is true. Unless she's like a junior league Solomon and you just don't know about it. You're like, you're beautiful, Nancy. And she's like, I am beautiful. You're like, okay, where did your gerbil go? Like, everywhere. Oh my God, you're not beautiful at all. You're terrible. But like, every human is super beautiful in that deep way that is kind of just true for everyone. But if you are very well-meaning parents and you say, oh, Nancy, you look amazing. It's true between you two, but there's two problems with that. One is the same evolved software that all of us carry to assess other human bodies incredibly rapidly, incredibly subconsciously for general attractiveness exists in us and works in the mirror. So 15-year-old, not so conventionally attractive looking Nancy will look at her own body in the mirror and be like, I don't think I'm beautiful. I think people are telling me something that's generally not true. And when she interacts with other people at school, you're going to get a few different kinds of interactions. One kind of interaction is just really awesome. You ever meet like 15, 16-year-olds? They're just so fucking great. Like, why couldn't I be more like you when I was a kid? Just treat everyone with mega respect. They love everyone. They're super popular. It's just great. You probably like that when you were a kid. Then there's...
I was just an annoying clown.
Oh, my man. Yeah, same. And here we are.
Mike's.
Yeah. And then there's another kind of interaction where you, for example, get outright bullying or degradation on the other extreme. Like, hey, you're fat. You're ugly. And like, kids will say stuff like that all the time.
I mean, and it's not just like fat girls, obviously. But like, I was brutally bullied in school for being like a chubby kid who was also like, who grew up in a trailer park, who smelled like cat piss and kerosene. That was me. Hi, my name's Blake. I grew up in Alabama on the mountain in a trailer park, and I went to school every day smelling like cat piss, kerosene, and cigarette smoke because I lived in a trailer where my mom smoked cigarettes and inside, and that was my life. We were also very poor. Hi, trailer park. And I wore like the crappiest clothes with the that were not the right size for me. And so I got being feminine because hello gay, but being all that wrapped up and being chubby and everything, like, yeah, I was brutally like bullied for just being like the kid out. So I can relate to this I guess, like, more so than I guess other guys. I don't know, but yeah, I can relate.
Kids are a certain brand of ruthless that we as adults tend to forget until we experience it. Like, you're around kids and what did you just say to your friend? Like, you can't talk like this to people. But there's another kind of in the middle, where everyone's cool with you. Everyone thinks you're dope. You're that 15-year-old girl that's significantly out of shape, let's say. And but it's the subtleties that hit you the hardest. You're friends with all the girls, all the pretty popular girls and everyone in between. And they all like boys, or whatever, other girls, right? Trying to be inclusive, give me some slack. They like other people. And when you're an attractive female of that age and you like someone else, there's a pretty even chance that they're gonna like you back, decent at least. And so you're like, oh my God, like, I love, like, John, he's so hot, oh my God, and John's like, yeah, send a back text, the whole thing. When you're that girl, when you're not conventionally attractive, and I'm using it very mildly, you are conventionally unattractive. Nobody tells you outright, potentially, that you're like that. And people like to bring the pretty girls down, they call them ugly too, so it's all same. And you could have gone through some of your life until that point thinking like, I fit in. Everything's great. I'm just like my super hot friends that are potty.
Oh yeah, you eventually you start to doubt what's wrong with me. It creates this chasm in you just a little bit. It's like, why do people treat me so differently? Why do they treat me so poorly? What is the thing? Is it that I'm ugly? Is it because I'm poor? Is it because I'm effeminate? Because I'm gay? Is it what is the thing that's wrong with me? And yeah, it's wild.
Too. And then you're like, I think I like Eric. I think Eric's amazing. I'm actually using subconsciously names of fictional characters in the book, by the way. I think people read that, they'll be like, ah. But here's the big problem. There's a high probability that Eric doesn't like you back. And that's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. Because it's not going to happen once. It's going to happen over and over and over to you in your life. It may start when you're 8, when you have little kid crushes. It may extend all the way through your entire life. Where just because you're shaped a certain way, it doesn't matter how you are on the inside. It doesn't matter how gorgeous you are as a human being to others, how intelligent you are, how patient you are, all those real qualities that we know people get married for, you know? Can you imagine someone's like, oh man, marry your wife because she was hot? You'd be like, oh, that would be a profoundly stupid decision just to make on that one metric, right? And so most people will never see that part of you because they evaluate you on just one metric. It's like a gateway. The rest of you is behind it. But your gateway doesn't look like they want to go through, and they just don't. And you want them to go through. You read romance novels, you watch rom-coms like everybody else. But by a certain age, if you are not conventionally attractive or at least decent, you start to learn subconsciously or consciously that all of these things that people live in their lives, romance, interaction, things like that, dating, they're just not for you. And I happen to think that is a giant, first world problem, right? But a giant unmitigated tragedy.
Yeah, try doing that in Alabama, being gay, fat, poor, all those things in Alabama as a middle schooler, and just being like, oh, this is not for me. Everyone here wants to possibly kill me. Granted, didn't end up being the case, but still.
And the aesthetic revolution, the culmination of this idea that using biology and technology and all of our best efforts, that we're going to make for the purposes of this, and my own personal view, at the very least adults, over 18, whatever the hell you brought with your biology, however you look, we're going to make it a little bit better, and then better, and then better, until you look like what you want. So your external presentation matches your internal representation of what you think you want to look like. And then those people will have a psychological healing that is unprecedented. And I think that getting folks to look exactly how they want to look could be such a major, amazing thing that happens that I'm both excited about it, but also hoping that it gets ushered in faster rather than slower.
So the problem I can kind of see with this is that if it becomes so easy to just change how you look to look how you want to look, then wouldn't that also kind of create this weird paradox where, okay, so you change yourself to look how you want to look, but then later on you're like, well, I mean, I look great now, but what if I could look, instead of a great version of myself, what if I wanted to look like Scarlett Johansson? And then you change yourself to look like Scarlett Johansson, and you're like, okay, well, this is great, but you know what, maybe I want to look like Beyonce now. And then you go down that route, and then it's it creates this, maybe I just want to become these different people over and over again, and you're trying to find who you are that best suits who you are without actually being who you are, if that makes sense. I mean, I could see it going down that avenue.
And one of the purposes of this book is to tell folks about these things happening in the tech space, in the biological space, and already how much you can do about it now with training and diet, which we can get into, so that they know that they don't have to settle for looking like what they're supposed to look like. And they can get much better, because the amount of psychological healing that can occur from someone who has been, how do I say this best, significantly below average in attractiveness for much of their life, when they gain that above average of attractiveness they've always wanted, that can change them profoundly in a way that is not to be understated. And that's kind of the big thesis.
So as a doctor, would you say that they can
I agree.
experience tremendous healing? That means there's some kind of pre-assumption that those who are unattractive are broken. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that?
Interesting choice of words by you. Not wrong. Hurt, psychologically hurt, and thus requiring healing. So,
and how?
Yeah, Brittany, sorry, I had to pause it because I can't focus two things at once. But yeah, I completely agree. I think Dr. Mike, the I guess handsome Mike, we'll say muscle Mike and then handsome Mike. Handsome Mike, he definitely is a little bit too clinical and maybe a little bit too sterile. And I don't really think he gets it, because he has, for lack of better terms, always been hot. I mean, if you look at some of his older photos, he's always been the attractive guy. He's used to people pining after him. I just don't think that he can relate to the ugly experience. I mean, or the the ugly community. Yeah, I don't know. And I think because I've watched some of this as well, but I think as we go along, you sort of realize that Dr. Mike Israetel, he might be doing this research more so for himself, because I think deep down there's a possibly like a hurt little kid in there that desperately wants to be one of the attractive kids, and he kind of looks like Shrek. He's still, I mean, I find both these Macs attractive. That's, I guess, my issue. But he looks more like Shrek than handsome Mike does, I guess. But I digress.
How are you landing there?
Yeah. I mean, so if you look at the literature on how the degree of...
I'll just throw a random non-related example of where my mind's going.
Sure.
There is this presumption that if you're not as wealthy as someone else, you're sadder, not as happy. But then when we look at basic needs being met, you have security, you have a home, whatever that magic number is. One documentary, one study will tell you a specific number, $70,000 or a year. Happiness doesn't really change. Is this the same principle where like your looks really don't matter? Even in a situation where people say, oh, if I lose a limb, I'm going to be so much less happy. But then you have the same interviews with people who have lost a limb or are paraplegic or quadriplegic.
I don't think you can compare money to looks and attractiveness. I don't think that those comparisons really weigh up next to each other, or the paraplegic thing, because it's different not having an arm and it's different being poor. But being ugly, not... Because you can always earn more money. You can always, like, you know, strive to get a better job and, like, get a degree and all these other things. I mean, granted, you could also do the surgery, but there's shame that comes with surgery, where there's, like, reward when it comes to having more money. When the fundamental... Sorry, my brain just, like, stopped. What looks are basically who you are, and when your looks... everyone around you or the world around you tells you that your looks mean that your value is like less than, that creates like a deep psychological like scarring, like it's really hard to like heal, really hard to get over, really hard to get past. You can't really compare that to money and or like, you know, losing a limb.
Can they say now happiness is levels the same? Mm-hmm. Is this the same wrong assumption that we could make as humans in those examples?
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. The amount of psychological healing that can result from you radically upgrading your appearance so that you look like what you want is not boundless. And it also requires a certain bit of work on at least two other fronts. One is really kind of doing the inner work of accepting and loving yourself. Nobody can do that for you. Therapists can help a ton. But you can look flawless. And there are many, many Instagram girls that look like, oh my God, this is a real person. And their brains are all sorts of gnarly because they hate themselves. So that's definitely a thing. And also, once you become much more attractive, you have to let it sink in. And the way I've been thinking about it is this. Let's say that between the age of 5, when you first found out that people thought you were ugly generally, and some people were nice enough not to say it, but many people were not nice enough to say it, and up until you're 35 and you finally get, let's just pretend it's just all one radical procedure.
I don't really know if that does that really, I don't know. I felt like I was unattractive, like in my preteens. That's when the unattractive factor really like set in for me. Like maybe it's because I'm a guy. The attractiveness didn't register to me until like later on when I was like entering, I guess, like adolescence, maybe when I was 10, 12, 13, whatever, when the hormones started. But yeah, I don't know.
Together and you come out as Barbie, you have the area under the curve of 30 years of trauma, basically. And you may need 30 years of really imbibing with your true deep self, this new reality. Because a lot of people, when they get an upgrade, they'll go, oh yeah, people are coming, God, you look gorgeous. Oh yeah, no big deal. And it's fine to say that for polite company, but even in their own heads, they'll try not to accept the fact that no, they do belong now. I think that acceptance takes a long time, and it's something optional. You can do it or you can not do it.
That, or I'm just going to use this as an example. It's not the exact case, but like we all know the stereotype of the fat girl who got skinny in college, and then now she becomes like a monster. Essentially, she becomes the mean girl that she hated when she was in like elementary school, because now she's hot. And I don't think it's that she doesn't know that she's attractive now. I think it's just like that flip. I think she was like, well, yeah, I'm attractive. Y'all didn't see this. I don't know. It's this weird paradox, right? It's like, it's a different thing that I'm not sure if he actually talks about.
Some people have made radical transformations in a variety of things and have never really let them sink in. And then they're making, I think, a gigantic mistake, because all of that stuff that happened to you in your childhood, that people said hateful things, you thought such hateful things about yourself, that's neural wiring. And you don't really, in most cases, I mean, unless you smash a ton of psychedelics or something, even that doesn't work all that well, you don't just rewire everything right up. Like, your brain doesn't work like a CPU, where just, no, just delete this part of the drive and install a new program. It takes a long time to upgrade. And so the benefits of looking substantially more attractive than you...
I want to see something. I want to see if I can find something real fast here. Yeah. Let's see. Come here. Command copy. Let's come up here. Young. Let's see. Pics of young Dr. Mike Israetel. Images. Oh. Well. Let's see. Okay. Here's a decent one of him. So yeah. I can sort of see where he's coming from. I mean, he definitely wasn't the most conventionally attractive human being. He looks a little bit like Elvis, or he looks a little bit like in Rocky Horror Picture Show, the guy who played, was it Bubba? That guy? I don't remember the name, but yeah. Ooh, interesting face. Okay, I mean, I don't say ooh as in gross, but I say ooh as in these are some not the most flattering photos of him, but he's not like ugly, but he's also not conventionally attractive.
You used to are not infinite, and you can absolutely collect very few of them, even if you look super attractive, if you resist really like floating in that wonderful sea of compliments and of looking at yourself in the mirror and going, yeah, hell yeah, this is working. It's like, I know people in bodybuilding that look like machines, like androids, like flawless. Like, you look at them, you go, hell, you look like this, and they like point to like one part, like, yeah, I really love how my chest is shaped. That shit's on their mind 24/7. Sure. And if someone compliments them, like, yeah, I don't know, like, I have small arms. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Don't you ever want to feel like you actually did the thing? And most people around you won't help you feel that. It's something you have to feel yourself. So it is definitely not a thing, just like the wealth example. You can't really say, like, as soon as you get wealthy, you'll be happy forever. Is this solve all your problems? Absolutely not. But I will say the opposite is also an interesting thought experiment. If you're like, well, people who lose limbs are statistically roughly as happy after, say, years of agony of trying to accept the fact that they don't have a limb anymore, by the way, than as the rest of us. That's totally true. If I give you a saw, how likely are you to chop your leg off? It's profoundly unlikely.
I mean, again, even if you lost a limb, you would still be you would still have the face. It's mostly all about face and weight. Attractiveness, for most people, maybe I'm just generalizing, but it falls down to mostly just like face and weight. And then maybe for guys, also muscle. And then maybe for women, it's also like boobs and butt and stuff. But it's like, I don't know, losing a limb, I don't think, I guess women who go through breast cancer and they have to get surgeries to remove the cancer and stuff, maybe that can have a major effect, because I guess that challenges their womanhood. But I don't know, losing a limb, lose like an arm or a leg, I don't think that's the best example.
For good reason. At least the acute trauma of having to deal with the fact that your limb is gone is substantially different. That would be really wonderful, is people who've lost limbs to get to a place where synthetic biology is so good it can grow your limb back. So you have all of the deep lessons of happiness that you took away from that traumatic incident, having to cope with it, plus you have a limb. That would be really awesome. So the money thing is also, I like that you brought that up. So it turns out, my last look at the data, it looks like the relationship between money and happiness is roughly linear and a very steep slope up until you get to like whatever, $70,000 roughly, blah, blah, blah. Let's call it $100,000, inflation adjusted, etc. Because like basic needs met and you have enough money for entertainment, you don't feel super constrained anymore. To get that much happiness takes, from going from $10,000 a year to $100,000, you get like, let's say 1x improvement in happiness. You actually get the same 1x improvement again, 2x improvement.
That's true. They will let you know that you're attractive, but
so their
I
happiness
guess to his
going
point,
from $100,000 a year income to $1 million is the same as going from $10,000 to $100,000. But it's
maybe
10x.
you just don't hear
and so if you go from
it. I guess you
100,000 to
won't accept
200,000,
it
you're like, oh,
initially,
my happiness
at
is going to
least.
double. No, it's not. It's going to be like 1.15 or whatever. And you're like, I feel basically the same. But if you get to $1 million, yeah, oh yeah. If you get to 10 million, oh yeah, you're going to get another big happiness boost. If you get 100 million a year, holy shit, it's going to be a thing. Now, your brain has ways of leveling you off. Like it's a hedonic treadmill, 100%. But there is also another perspective I think is super, super important here. When you're telling people that becoming more attractive won't make you happier, maybe as happy as you think it will, that's super valid. It hits different when you're telling someone who's like pretty damn good looking that like that extra little part of perfection won't make a big deal. It hits real different if you're telling someone who has been made fun of for how they look, and it is clear to everyone, including themselves, that are very grotesquely unattractive. They're like, oh, well, it really won't matter much in your life. It's tantamount to telling someone who scrapes by on $10,000 a year, like, listen, I have money, kid. You don't want money. It's no problems. The girls get crazier. And it's like, hey, rich guy, can you get the fuck out of my face until you have money for me? And then you can tell me things like that. So I think that for people who have been thinking like, oh, I could use bigger boobs. That'd be nice. Yeah, like you get a little bit of happiness out of that when you get them installed, and that's about it. for people who have been, and I mean traumatized with years of having to deal with the fact that they are very unattractive, I think they get big boosts out of becoming substantially more attractive, doing the inner work, and accepting the fact that they now live in a new reality and they have to imbibe that all the time.
Yeah, I think about this from a cognitive behavioral standpoint. Obviously, I'm a family medicine doctor, not a psychiatrist or psychologist, but given the limited availability with mental health access these days of patients, I end up filling the role of beginning or doing an intro session about what CBT is quite often with patients. And a lot of it is figuring out what version of the hedonic treadmill patients are on, what they envision happiness to look like. And a lot of times it's set to extrinsic goals like wealth, a number of followers, a specific cup size, height size these days, bicep size. And the reality is none of those things actually yield long-term happiness. Like like the fact that you could change those things in a moment will create a spike on the chart because it's something different, it's something new, you're gonna get accustomed to this new lifestyle. But the fact that you will get accustomed to it means that there's something intrinsically going on that's driving the unhappiness. So like, wouldn't the better exercise, instead of trying to fix what perhaps a generation of individuals or culturally we believe to be attractive, instead focus on, let's go on a higher level of what it means to be human. Let's not devolve to the childlike state of calling each other ugly. Let's figure out how we value other traits, the kindness, the intellectualness, the curiosity that someone has, the humor someone can bring to a conversation, and put that as the priority of what we should be focusing on? Or do you feel like no matter what we do, we're so biologically driven, it doesn't matter that we're gonna put our focus into that, it doesn't matter that we're gonna focus with cognitive behavioral therapy to help individuals if they do carry trauma? You think?
See, I don't think that, like, I think that's like a pipe dream, honestly. I think just we as a species, we value attractiveness. I think it's just, I'm not sure if it's like hard boiled down and like it's like deep down in our DNA, but I think we value attractiveness so much. Like, I don't think that we can just like keep banging into our kids like, hey, be nice, ugliness, attractiveness, or like the people's looks don't matter. I just think it's always going to matter. It's just something that it's a type of currency almost. It's just there. How do you erase that, right? Like, I think he's off mark here.
Physically, there's better bang for your buck to make that transition.
I don't know if it's better. I think it's additive. I think both would be great. And if we can solve both problems, that would be great. I also think there are some things in life that really good-looking people have access to that really not good-looking people don't. And there's unlikely to be an amount of therapy in any proximate time frame that's going to mediate those. For example, as a single woman in her late 20s,
Listen, no amount of therapy is going to make me feel good in clothes if my clothes don't fit appropriately to my body type. That's all I'm going to say. It's like, if my legs are smaller than my torso and I have to wear like a size 36 in pants, but then like a XXL in shirts, and that makes me look all weird and lopsided, therapy's not going to fix that. It might can like help me accept that body type, but I still, at the end of the day, it's not going to, at least in my head, look proportionate and look good. I don't know.
Is conventionally profoundly unattractive. Radical morbid obesity, very asymmetrical face shape, the whole thing. I don't have to say it, we know what it is. Like, it's really, if you go on a real spirit journey to deep into Eastern Buddhist tradition, it is possible you will come out changed profoundly and a level of serenity and happiness that you didn't think was possible. And then there's that guy at work you like, and you want a family. And you realize that you can't trick romance. Humans are primates, and they could love you as a human a ton, but there's no spark, because the spark is largely physical. People have this term called love at first sight. I'm sure you've heard it. So first of all, it's not love. It's ridiculous. It's a crush at best, maybe?
I mean, I don't know. People sat across from me and said some pretty miraculous things about seeing their loved one for the first time. You've seen Good Will Hunting?
I hated that movie.
What?
You know, for one very autistic reason.
Like, for all the controversial things you say, that's the wildest thing I've heard you say.
I was 13 when I watched that movie.
Well, that's why.
Oh,
I don't know if I've ever seen this movie. I might have when I was like a kid, but I don't know if I have.
I don't get it.
Oh, I got it.
You're still stuck at age 13.
I'm still trying to figure out the equations on the board. Well, there was a recruiter from the military intelligence that came to try to recruit Matt Damon for...
Yeah, he gave like a really funny speech. Baby Seal.
He gave like a retort that was just wrong. And the only thing I could think about was like, well, you're not really that smart, are you?
Well, it's a movie.
Okay.
It's
That's
fiction.
why I hated it. Well, yeah, but it's bad fiction. Is that okay? Although it's very realistic. Like a cocky person who's really highbrow IQ and doesn't know geopolitics well could very well have given that answer.
Exactly.
But I hated it because he gave a stupid answer, and I hated him, and I hated the movie. I did a lot of hating.
He was being witty. I don't think he was looking to be
Well, he actually rejected the
accurate.
offer.
Yeah, but I don't think he was looking to be accurate.
I thought he was looking to respond in a really pithy way that really undercut the entire premise of the military.
Sure, but I don't think that he was trying to be factually accurate while doing so. The same way that he was perhaps calling one of the therapists gay. I don't think he was trying to really call him gay. I think he was trying to throw him off his game.
I think the people that wrote that line in the script, those lines, I think they thought those were lines that other smart people would be like, he got him. But if you really know anything about geopolitics, you'd be like, that's a clown take, and that's wrong. In any case.
Okay, so that one line killed you in the movie.
100%.
No, come on. What about the relationship with Robin Williams? Robin Williams speaking about his wife.
Yeah, it was dope.
Okay.
Obviously. On the metrics, phenomenal movie. It's just a good movie.
Oh.
But I hated it.
Oh,
I make a real good hobby out of hating good movies.
Any other good movies you hate?
Name a good movie.
Shawshank.
I probably hate it. Shawshank, I cried like a child. I love that movie.
So there you go.
I have seen that movie. Do like that movie. I also like The Green Mile. Not that anyone brought that up, but for some reason, Shawshank makes me think of The Green Mile.
It was finishing.
I don't know. I thought you would hate it. You're like, what is he doing with those rocks? Rocks are meant for skipping.
I want to see the person that can watch the end of Shawshank when he's walking down the Pacific coastline and they see each other and not cry and be like, keep that person away from me. That's a psychopath.
What's another good movie that?
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump's really good. I like one that's not known
Now
to
that's
be
a
a
good
favorite
movie.
amongst anyone. Man on Fire. Denzel, Dakota Fanning, kidnapped girl in Mexico, Mark Anthony. Did you see it? Did you think it was good? Whatever. Yeah. Most people feel that way about it. I like the music.
There's this genre of movie where it's a real jilted man, jilted protagonist, and he's struggling internally. Like Will Smith has a lot of these roles where he does the Will Smith face, where he's like, and I just don't, it just never hits. I'm like, I don't know what he's
Oh,
thinking.
what was
I have
that
no
Will
idea what's
Smith
going
movie when he was a broke guy, but he was really smart? And he,
I Am Legend.
went with his
Pursuit of Happiness.
Pursuit of Happiness. Did you like that?
I never saw it.
Oh, that's good.
I watched the preview and I was like, never in a million years am I watching that shit.
You don't
Movies
like
are bad
movies.
things. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm the worst movie critic of all time.
You hit me like a guy who watches police body cam footage or something.
It's exactly what I
Jeez,
watch.
look at those
See?
First of all, I watch
veins in
that
his
all the time.
legs.
Nothing beats reality, bro. It's real. Nobody scripted that shit.
Yeah, the fact that you watch that is scary. Why that?
Humanity in the raw, I think, is actually one of the futures of content creation, because curated content that's designed to deceive you into a false reality is like awesome from an artistic perspective, but something about seeing shit as it really is really, really intense, because you actually just don't know what's going to happen. You know, it's not narrative driven. It's just like, this is real life. Also, I don't want to get too far on this tangent. The politically correct understanding of criminology is so at odds with the real understanding of criminology that police body cam videos, if you have the incorrect understanding, will inoculate you within several videos to like, what the hell is going on here? Like, most criminals are the kind of people that once you get to know them, you realize why they're in trouble with the law all the time, and it's not a mystery anymore. And so it's always like, oh, these are real human beings. Should actually like that.
All right, so wait, love at first sight. Let's move off police body cams because that's going to take us in a direction.
Yeah, that's right. So love at first sight is a thing that is fundamentally reserved mostly for attractive people. And through no doing of their own, mostly because attractiveness is largely genetic, unless we have tractable ways to change it, which is what the book is about. And so you could be that girl that went on a Buddhist spirit journey. She's okay with how she looks at a huge, deep level. You're still not going out with the guy at the office who you adore.
I don't know. I feel like, I mean, I guess, is there like, how do you quantify attractiveness in this with what he's saying? Because someone who is, I guess, would we say like a 5 up to a 10 on the attractiveness scale? Are those, every single one of those can find love at first sight, I'm assuming. Like, how do you quantify that? Because how do you quantify the attractiveness in that equation, really? Like, what would you have to look like to not be able to find love at first sight? That's what I want to know.
Or he's never going to marry you, you're never going to have children with him. You may not ever have the candidacy of a man that you consider worthwhile of your time on a financial level, on a status level, on a deep emotional connection level, on an intellectual level. All of those guys have pursued women significantly more attractive than you physically, and you're never going to eat at that table. And that is a tragedy, because
Do you think
inside
that's,
you're much better.
that's an unfair assumption that would happen?
It's statistically true. So
I mean, by
some
what
minority,
statistic? There's a statistic that you specifically.
Yeah, statistically true in the sense of that it happens on average and on aggregate. So, like, is there a probability that you're fundamentally very unattractive and you meet a guy who's way super attractive in all of the ways that matter and the physical ways, and he says, yes, you're that girl? Yes. Is it so unlikely that there are rom-coms about it? Yes.
Yeah, like on a vocabulary English level of the words you're saying, I could say it makes sense. The same way that I can say, oh man, putting chemicals in children is bad. Also makes sense, but vaccines are good.
Yeah.
So like, how do we distinguish between what you're saying as sounding good versus this is actually what plays out all the time and it's not socially driven by movies and influence from a Hollywood side of things? Like, what's the reality if humans were left to their own devices? How do we figure that out?
If you dig a level deeper on the chemicals claim, you realize that it actually doesn't make any sense. Because if you've ever paid attention for several days in high school chemistry, you know that everything is a chemical pretty much, except for like the neutron star or something. And then you realize that actually is a meaningless statement. And if you dig down deep enough on the claim that physical attractiveness matters a great deal for outcomes in the world, you run into two things. One is the statistical data on various correlates of success, outcomes at work, outcomes in social spheres, number of friends, intimacy with other people. They correlate grandiosely with physical attractiveness in a way that I consider both true, real, and disgusting. It's a thing. The other way you can do it is just talk to regular people. I think it passes the obvious test. And I'll say this, and I mean this with all very, very due respect. You're very attractive, conventionally. I do have a citation. You've been in multiple magazines as one of the most attractive doctors of all time or whatever. Good luck refuting that. Okay.
Something I've always wanted to know is, like, people who are, like, actually hot, they know that they're hot. Like, right? Like, what is that feeling? Like, granted, and not to like blow smoke up my own ass, but I've been in situations where even though I don't think I'm the most attractive, I was the most attractive in the group, and there was like this weird hierarchical, oof, my brain just broke, level of like, they sort of treated me better than them in a weird way, or they like gave me more value, or they treated me better than, and it's just like, so people who are hot, who are by all standards conventionally hot, like, what is their internal monologue or dialogue, not monologue, internal dialogue about that, about how they feel about themselves and how they move through the world? Like, do some people just like go through and just expect people to treat them like they're attractive, or like what? I'm just curious. Like, I don't know.
Which, by the way, I think I tricked them, but...
My man. That's all angles, right? Because like this, you don't look that
That's
way.
what I'm
Like
saying.
that.
That's Facetune.
Clint Eastwood,
Facetune.
1972?
This whole podcast has been Facetune. Do you know what Facetune is?
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's an app.
Oh,
It's
like
like Photoshop your face.
Ugh.
How does
I tried to download all those
how does he
apps,
know
and the
what
algorithm's like,
Facetune
dude,
is?
that's just too much.
It doesn't do it automatically.
Yeah.
It's not an AI thing.
No.
You have to know what's messed up.
Yeah, right. I need a lot of AI. So, you have likely, at least for times in your life, experienced reality at a very different... How tall are you?
6'3".
6'3". Super handsome. Super educated. Erudite. Very well spoken. Fashionable, I might add. Did I mention ultra wealthy? I saw your Ferraris video, so can the bullshit, thank you. And then, damn it, pull that video off YouTube. And then you're 6'3", and the way humans treat you in the world is going to be very different than they treat other people. And if you get folks and talk to real humans that have the opposite of all of those things on the metrics I just listed, their perception of how other humans treat them is going to be very different, and that's their real truth that they live every single day. And so if you look at the statistical data on like life outcomes and on people's emotional regulation and stability and perception of their happiness during various formative years looking like some other things, we find that like it's a pretty grim picture, pretty grim. And if we kind of step back and think like, have I ever had times in my life where I was less than, where I didn't fit in? And it's tough. It's really, really tough. And so what I would say, to answer that kind of final place where this started, is I think it's combinatorial, accepting that your attraction to other people, etc., really is only skin deep, and that most of the value of who you are really is up here somewhere. I think it's phenomenal. I think making sure that you attend to your inner dynamics is huge, therapy, etc. But I think that there's a certain kind of benefit to actually looking like you always wanted, is that if we heal that, if we fix that, it both makes these things easier, and it adds to the slice of the pie. Because when I ask...
Again, it might make it easier, but I think it also can potentially create more problems. Like, again, if you could change yourself, then what's stopping you? Unless you actually heal that brokenness inside of you, what's from stopping you to wanting to continue to change? Like, I think there's a thing in our human nature where, like, at 34 years old, at this point, I've just sort of like settled into my skin, and I realize, okay, this is the body that I've been given, and I can, I can get fatter, I can get skinnier, I can get muscular, I can do all these things, but this is the face that I have, this is the body. I can always get surgeries to change the face, I can get I can change this, but this is, I guess, the framework that I have to work with, and I have the choice to change it if I want to, but overall, for the most part, I accept it. And then I know that as I age, I'm going to be changing, just by aging, I will be changing. Like, this is going to change it. It's probably going to start looking worse than what it already is. I don't know. And I think that there comes a level of acceptance as people as people age. Lost train of thought. Let's continue.
myself, how happy can people get? How fulfilled can they get? I don't really tend to see a top end to that. I think it's boundless. And so I say, why not more? And also, none of this is prescriptive. I could give, in the best way possible, a flying crap. Anyone looks, I will accept you as you, period. Do you accept you is a very different question. How do you want to live your life is a very different question. And there are a lot of people that have grown up attractive and have never been not attractive that run into one
Like Dr. Mike.
hypothetical problem and one real problem. One hypothetical problem is if they were in an unattractive body and face, they would think that the world changed overnight for them, and it really kind of would have. And the real problem is a lot of women who put a lot into how they look when they're younger. As the
True 2431. That's a what? Why is that name the name? Curious.
they get older, and you can see this evolve on social media, they start to report that people are so much meaner nowadays. People are so rude nowadays. Everyone used to be so cool. Well, because everyone used to want to stick it in you, and now you're old. Sorry, it's real life. And I don't like any part of it.
Hey, that's the point I'm
I
making.
think that rude awakening to the fact that you never really invested in much of anything else and you just assumed you were cool,
attractive.
but really it's because you were hot. I think there's like the ugly people in the back are like, yeah, take that, Stacy. But I'm trying to be like, why does anyone ever have to be unattractive? Like, this is a solvable problem. And
See, I think that's why aging is the great equalizer. Like, have you noticed how most older women all look the same? Like the old woman cartoon, like, what's her name? Old woman birthday card. Birthday card. Images. Like, where are they at? Where are they at? I guess there's a specific card, and every older woman looks exactly like this card. I mean, it's sort of like this one over here. Where is it at? I don't know. Whatever. But basically, this is an example. So basically, the white short hair, the glasses, and then like a muumuu. It's like, aging is the great equalizer, and I feel like at that point, people, they give up on it and they're almost able to live their lives, I guess.
my prediction is that over the next 10 to 15 years, it's going to be basically a completely solved problem that everyone will just access like, oh, I want to look like this, now I look like this. And I think that's almost all upsides.
Do you think that if someone's watching this and they feel they're unattractive, or perhaps kids in their class tell them they're unattractive in high school, middle school, college, whoever's listening, do you think them hearing what you're saying is valuable to them? Or do you think it potentially perpetuates the idea that they're broken and they should feel broken and they're going to have a terrible life and that people won't like them? No one's going to fall in love with them at first sight. Do you think that is helpful to them?
I think to them, it's like telling Ukrainians that live close to the battlefield that war sucks. They know. You don't have to tell them shit. They know better than you that it sucks.
Well, I would say that they don't, not because that perhaps people haven't told them or they haven't felt it, is this feeling that you're describing of feeling less than or feeling unattractive. This isn't universally isolated to people who are unattractive. Attractive people feel ugly. If you ask some of the most beautiful people in the world, they'll oftentimes talk about how ugly they feel.
Yeah, totally.
So this feeling could be implanted in people who don't feel ugly, when by your measurements and aesthetic principles, you may deem them ugly. So that's my question.
Yeah.
Can you
Great
implant that
question.
in them?
Yeah. Quadrant, how you feel, how you actually look. 4 possible scenarios. One is that you look amazing, on average, and you feel awesome. You feel beautiful. Amazing. The aesthetic revolution is just trying to get everyone into that quadrant, by the way. That's the best quadrant.
So I feel great and look great.
Yeah. Not so controversial.
You mean like who's trying to get them there when you say they're trying to get them there?
Me.
What do
Writing
you
book.
mean? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get people into that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You want everyone to
If
feel
you
good
want.
and look good?
Yeah. Look like you want, and then feel also like you want. Most people probably want to feel good and look good, but that's none of my business. If you want to look like whatever. Again, I have carte blanche. I have tons of money. Okay? I have a loving wife who accepts me no matter what. I could have already got height enhancement surgery. I could have had lots of face surgery. I'm fundamentally not terrible looking, but there's stuff to improve. I could have gotten the hair shit. I don't give a. I want to look like a teenage mutant ninja turtle that like was more mutant than teenage or a turtle. Ta-da! Success, right? So if you want to look a certain way, I love it. But the thing is, most people, if you survey them, just want to look conventionally attractive. It's just really the thing. And so, like, you know the whole Lizzo situation?
What's the whole Lizzo situation?
So, like, there's a real fun kind of inside joke that, your hot girlfriends are like, oh my God, Lizzo's so gorgeous. And then you're like, you look like Lizzo. And they're like, what the fuck do you mean I look like Lizzo? They don't take it well. They're like, I thought you said she was gorgeous. Like, and then, like, just shut up. And they don't want the conversation. Because even Lizzo wants to look like...
I mean, but to be fair, Lizzo isn't an unattractive person. She just is a bigger person in her body. But she's not unattractive. But I can I guess get what he's saying.
Scarlett Johansson. Fundamentally. So I digress. We all want to be in that one quadrant. There are people that look good, to your point, and they don't feel so good inside. They feel ugly. Number 1 candidate, therapy. Immersion. That's a path you have to walk yourself. Totally. There are people that look terrible. Again,
But also, people who are attractive but feel ugly, they're still going to be treated like they are attractive because people see them as attractive. So they at least won't have that roadblock. I'm assuming. At that point, I think it becomes like a personality thing. So yeah, therapy would be the most beneficial option for them.
statistical aggregate, not in some moralistic way, but how most people perceive them and how they perceive themselves. And they feel amazing. They feel beautiful. Lizzo, I don't know how she feels on the inside. She got more swag than half of Manhattan all put together, so I feel like she's probably feeling pretty goddamn good about herself. And so That is nothing short of wonderful. And if that's where you want to stop...
But again, Lizzo isn't unattractive. She's just bigger. That's the thing. It's like that one model, the plus-size model, Tess Holliday. She has a great face, a very round body, but she has a great face, and people, if she looked like Mama June, she would not have the success that she had. Let's be fair. It's like, realistically, like Mama, like, I hate to say it like this, but how would you fix someone who kind of looks like Mama June with the and everything? Like, that's the kind of person I think that Mike is, or yeah, Dr. Mike is talking about.
God bless you. Then there are people who feel ugly and look ugly. And almost every interaction they ever have that's not neutral reinforces both of those things.
I mean, look at the path that Mama June went down. Like, for those of you who may not know who that is, Mama June images. Let's see. Like, I guess she's not ugly by chance. She's definitely like round and in a larger body, but see, I don't know, for someone like that, and again, I hate to like point out a specific person in this conversation because it's like just saying I'm not trying to say that she's ugly or hideous or anything, but she is not conventionally attractive, right? It's like, what would you have to do to quote unquote fix her, to make her feel better? Like, how would you have to change her body? Because she's lost weight. And I mean, I guess she looks fine there, but I don't know. That is definitely, it's a conundrum to me.
So if you tell someone, hey, you're not attractive conventionally, you know this, like, yeah, no shit, all right. But like through a personal journey, you can just shrug all that off and feel your best. They're like, dope. That's very easy to say, profoundly difficult to do. Because every sign...
Yeah, because Mama June, even though she essentially got fame and success, money, and all that stuff, she lost weight, but she also went down the path of like drugs, addiction. She cheated her daughter out of her own money. There's something deep down internally that is broken in her, and though she got more conventionally attractive to the best of her ability, she still has deep fractures in her psychology.
And you get around you, especially as a younger person, and really as a person, especially as a woman, is the opposite. The amount of inner work and the amount of strength you have to hold, keep your self-esteem and self-image up at all times, is really tough to do in the face of everything. It's similar to telling someone who's profoundly, desperately poor, be like, well, like everyone in 1700 was poor, and they pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. They did great. Like, you just have to have more resilience. You know what the thing is? To your point, that is true. Every single poor person could have more resilience and just deal with it, and they get themselves out. People do it all the time. Immigrants do it all the time. But it hits different when it's coming from someone who has money, telling a poor person, like, you don't need all this money. You just gotta get, it's all up here. Like, all right. It would sure shit help if I had some money, though, wouldn't it? And we know it would. And so I say both. And I say that there are definitely people that are gorgeous on the outside, but struggle deeply mentally. But who we're forgetting are the people that have the exact same genetic proclivity for poor self-image, but they are existing in bodies that are statistically unattractive. That's extra double misery. That sucks in a way that at least the attractive person's like, oh, I feel like shit. And Kevin's like, you're so beautiful, Stacey. And she's like, oh, stop, I don't believe it. At least she's got Kevin over here telling her some shit, and every other guy she'll ever meet, oh my God. When you're hot enough, it gets annoying because there's guys just ugly all the time. Hey, what a great problem to have. What if you want people to ogle you, and they never do? And the people that you like and you want to reach out to romantically, almost never do they say yes. And at some point you learn that they're probably not going to say yes. Mike, there are, I would say, very heuristic, very hand-wavy estimate here, millions of American women, and around the world, God knows, tens of millions, that have written off the probability that they will find physical intimacy with someone because it has been so unavailable to them in their real life that they're like, that's just not me. That's tragic. I don't want to say everyone deserves physical intimacy and the recognition of beauty of another person, someone to touch your body and accept it for what it is and find it attractive.
I think he's also forgetting about the incels, like the incels who feel that. I think this is the crux of the incel issue, like, because I want to say incels are majority. Wow, I cannot talk tonight. They are majorly, or the majority of them are men, right? So I think this needs to be a part of the conversation just a little bit, because I think the root cause of the incel problem that we have is them feeling absolutely valueless, and so they turn the internal, like, the deep chasm in their self outward and into hate, and they attack people, specifically women, more than likely women. But it's yeah, that they're also part of this conversation.
It deserves a strange word, but is there a reason those people don't have it and other people do? And there is. It's just genetics. We can change some of that stuff.
What about the fact that I don't know what great studies have been done on this. I haven't studied the subject enough. In fact, this is my first time discussing the subject with you. That people who, let's say, if you get 1,000 people, a diverse enough sample size, rank someone a 5, or they rank themselves a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, they then select a partner that's in a similar range. And given the fact that there are perhaps people who, based on these aesthetic principles, will be a 1, they will find someone else who's a 1, and they will deem each other beautiful. You disagree with that as a compensatory natural mechanism that nature designed?
I wish it were so, man. Some people really do function like that, and I think like that's such a huge unlock. What an incredibly, massively beneficial adaptation to kind of detect where you are in the social and physical hierarchy and be like, that's who my candidacy group is.
Agreed.
It's really hard. I'm gonna find that person attractive. Maybe. I think that does happen for some people. What I would surmise is that reality is mostly much grimmer than that. We know this from lots of dating app studies, which, by the way, if you ever looked into it, there are studies now with millions of people in the sample groups. Like, that's crazy. You don't even need stats for that. Like, which bar is higher? And they, like statistical significance is 8 zeros and shit. And what we get from that is that tall, handsome, wealthy men that have some ability to be social, they eat, bro. They eat. I'm talking about they're getting almost all the hot women. Don't you smirk at me? You look like you have a real full belly. You know what I'm saying?
The fact that you're saying they eat.
Yes. Come on. Am I street yet? Was that cool? Am I cool? So I hang around with pieces of shit that talk like that all the time. My friends and my wife. So, and women that are super, super attractive, they just get carte blanche pick of the litter. And if you look at the bottom 10% of attractiveness for both sexes, you get 2 things. One is the probability that you're very successful with the other sex is, or with whichever sex you like, is low, much lower. Not 0, of course. To your point, they find each other. But the thing is that the general software for determining attractiveness is really varied at the edges, but at its core, it's universal. And so most of us think roughly the same things are pretty attractive, no matter what. Like think of Disney princesses. Like, they're all kind of shaped the same, not identically, but very similarly.
I mean, part of it, though, is like hyper racist because the people who were drawing them only had one idea of beauty in their mind, right? Like, where did Disney come from?
Disney is reflecting cultural universals.
From the time where it was deemed as one race was specifically more beautiful than
if you like analyze exclusively black men in Africa, they choose almost the exact same silhouette that white dudes in Norway choose as maximally attractive, except 10 to 15% thicker. What if you weigh 400 pounds, Mike?
What about skin color?
And you have a giant, we're talking about the shape, just shape. Skin color, you're totally correct, but it also works both ways. Almost every pale white woman wants to look like J-Lo, and almost every...
Like, I don't fully get Dr. Mike's point here. Like, there's Jasmine, there's Tiana. Granted, it took a minute for them to actually make a black princess, but there are princesses of color. I mean, I guess he's just talking about the overall, like, landscape of Disney, but still, I don't know if it really fits in this context.
Every dark-skinned black woman wants to look like J-Lo. Really, the Hispanics one. If you ever Google Latinas, anything else after, they really, oh boy, oh, they look great. Honestly, so let me make my final big point here to answer your question. There are realities in the world that are serendipitous and beautiful. There are realities in the world that are a mixed bag. There are other realities in the world that are ugly, real ugly, but they're true, and we have to face them as adults and be like, they're true. And one of the realities is that most people have the same basic software for analyzing who's attractive and who's not and ranking them. Basics. On the edges they fray, and there are exceptions, 100%. But when you are 1 out of 10 to most people, what you want in your heart of hearts for your partner is for them to be a 10. Shit, at least an 8, you know what I'm saying? At least a 6 for the love of God, and maybe a 4, but you almost certainly don't want a 1. And so the idea that there's this everyone just pairs is in contradiction to evolutionary psychology and to lived experience of people, to primatology, by the way, and to almost every interaction we've ever come to know. There is a competition for the most attractive people. It is not...
That's true. I mean, that's where you sort of get the trope of the ugly rich guy with, like, the most attractive woman, and then I guess I don't know. Then you have like those. Maybe that's just sitcom like logic, where you have like the fat, dumb blue collar guy with like the really attractive woman. I don't know. I guess there's some truth to this.
Not even slut hierarchical. It's like, if you look like this, I don't care where you rank, I like that look. And if you don't look like this, if you look very far afield from this, again, 400 pounds, androgynous obesity, there just aren't that many people that are into that look. And if you're a woman who's 400 pounds with androgynous obesity, you don't necessarily look at like 400-pound truck drivers, God bless them, they're wonderful people, who have also androgynous obesity, and you're like, that's my man. Like the Shrek idea, like Lady Shrek and Shrek, and they're like, oh, like this is what they like. The reality is, if you're that woman, you probably read romance novels with Fabio on the cover, someone that looks like you, and that's what they want. That's what most people want. And if you were like, hey, lady, carte blanche.
I mean, fair. I mean, that's why you have all these women going to like Magic Mike shows and stuff, right? It's like, even though you may not can get what you want, you still want the thing. You still, like... For example, say you marry someone who is of equal attractiveness to you, but you get the chance to potentially, like, you know, step out on your husband or your wife or whatever with someone, let's say, who's an attractive person right now? Who's all Pedro Pascal. Like, everyone is in love with Pedro Pascal right now. If you had that chance and you compare him to your current husband, some people would really have a hard time not saying yes to that opportunity, right? Right?
How do you want to look? Turn the magazine to J-Lo or Scarlett Johansson or someone else and be like that. And it's just not rocket science. That's how most people want to look. That's what most people want to interact with. So the aesthetic revolution to me, in a big part, is about like, there are so many just unbelievable people in bodies and faces and hairlines and everything that just don't add up. Like, a lot of hot people too are just like, you've met lots of hot people that are just, like, no offense, everyone's on their own journey, total dog shit on the inside, and you're like, she's like, do you want to like go on date number 2? And you're like, I would pay really good money to never see you again, at the very least talk to you. And that mismatch is tragic. I think that everyone who is just simply born into a body and face and physique that just doesn't add up as far as attraction, I think life for them would be really different. Maybe not ecstatically happy to your point, but better. Better than it is if they just made the outside match the inside. And yes, I do. It really is skin deep, because all of a sudden, if you get you go on a lifting journey, you do your diet right, some stuff we could talk about next maybe, because that's mostly what the book is about, and then get all the cosmetic surgeries and all the eventual age reversal, genetic modification, blah blah blah, and you finally look like whatever you wanted to look like. Then people talk to you and they engage with you in a discourse that they never would have engaged with you before. And you get romance and all that. You never changed. The real you was always in there, quote unquote. But it was wrapped up in a gift pack that didn't look appealing to most people. And I think, should we work on our inner selves? Yes. Should we work on the rapping? Yeah, why not, man? And people that tell you the rapping is overrated are unfortunately falling off one of two camps. Unattractive people that are coping, and really attractive people that have just never seen the other side before. It's like a billionaire's inheritance. Somebody like, I don't know what people in Africa keep complaining about with their water supply. Mine's fine. Like,
What about people who feel it's taboo to say they like something that is perhaps deemed societally unattractive?
Give me an example.
People who are overweight, carrying 300 pounds overweight, they say, oh, when I go on social media, the amount of men that message me is wild, but they are embarrassed by it because society deems people who are overweight as unattractive. So they feel like if they were to message me publicly, it would be taboo.
What do you mean message publicly? Like comment?
Yeah, like they won't comment on their stuff, but they'll message them privately saying, I'm really interested in you.
Some of those guys are dogs, man. They comment too. You've seen
But I'm saying that's a thing that people say.
That,
I'm pointing out just from a...
That's definitely a thing too. 100%.
The reason why I think of society playing such a big role here, and
like, a huge part of this conversation is about weight, and that is such a... I don't know if I love that it's focused on that, because, again, you can still be overweight and still conventionally attractive. Like, again, the Tess Holiday example that I gave earlier. So, for example, Tess Holiday images. Like, she is still, even though she is in a larger body, she is still conventionally attractive. Of course, there are going to be men who are going to want to slip into her DMs, even though they may not outwardly say it. They still would. However, let's compare it to this person here. It's like, those same men, I'm granted, there are men, apparently, because this bitch is never single, who find her attractive, which, again, great. By the way, I love the show. I love Tammy. I love Amy. They're great. But it's like, I don't know how, like, I can only imagine what it feels like to be in her body, even after all the surgery and stuff, after all the weight loss and the skin removal and stuff. It's like, even still, like, I mean, that's a filtered photo, but even still, after the surgery and the weight loss and everything, conventionally attractive, I don't know, how would you heal the hurt from existing? I hate to just be like, this person's ugly and they're just like but still, it's such a weird conversation.
Magazine culture, like if I think back to the Shape magazine and Vogue telling people to just do champagne and cigarette diet and all of these ridiculous things to just try and weaponize beauty in a way to make themselves feel better. And
make who feel better?
The people who are already physically attractive at baseline. And the reason why there's a theory why that could play out is because there is some sort of distribution from a bell curve standpoint about who is attractive by these standards that we're discussing here aesthetically. And the people who are on the tail end of the curve are rare. Mm-hmm. So they know that's rare. They dangle it in front of people as a form of rarity, just like how if there's a rare Ferrari, I really want it. Mm-hmm. If there's a rare watch, I really want it. If there's a special edition coming out, I really want it. So there's plenty of, we even see this play out in the social media world, Instagram influencers who talk about being lifestyle coaches, and here's how to get a waistline like mine. Here's how you could get my Brazilian butt going just like you can. And they're doing it because it makes them appreciate what they have. And they know that they got theirs either gifted to them or they bought it, and yet they're still dangling it. So basically they create this artificial demand, just how Hermes does when they only release a certain number of Birkins, for example. And everyone's like, oh, I want the Birkin. Is the Birkin that much more beautiful than any other bag? Well, it's limited. It's people want it. There's demand for it culturally. And then we've created this artificial demand for a product that perhaps isn't any more special than any other person. It doesn't do anything different. Just like how a person that aesthetically could be a 10 or a 1, they could both be amazing humans or both be terrible humans. It doesn't say anything just by looking at them aesthetically. And
again, I don't know if you can really compare like an object like a purse to attractiveness in a human being. Like at a certain point, there is like a universal. I mean, I guess I'm assuming here, and I'm being very generic, but there is like a universal like standard for attractiveness, like symmetrical features, certain like body type. It's like if you fall within like a certain scope or a certain spectrum, you are universally attractive. Like you can't really compare like a unique, like even in the attractive scope, there are still like the top tier people are attractive, but there's still more attractive people. I don't know, it's such a weird comparison.
think about how in talking about these aesthetics, we could take people in the little diagram you created and you go into the diagram of where someone feels great but perhaps aesthetically is on the low scale, and by having this conversation, by talking about it in the way that we are, by looking at the magazines and social media the way that they value a certain type of look, and now they suddenly fall into the category of being unhappy. And they feel like they need whatever it is that the next plastic surgery wave, AI wave, is going to be trying to sell them. Are we just creating consumers for beauty in that way?
It's definitely a factor.
I mean, haven't we already? Like, the beauty industry does it, the skincare industry does it, the cosmetic industry does it. Like, we're already there.
At a rough estimate, I would say that is a roughly 1-to-9 relationship, with 10% of the variance of how people feel what they should look like explained by cultural forces, and 90% explained by deep evolutionary, roughly static forces that tell you look like this or you look like that. And it doesn't work so well on the extremes. So if you look in a way that most people think is not great, it's profoundly difficult to drum up demand for yourself. There's certainly some Instagram profiles of people that look, let's say, very different charitably, and they're just doing amazing, right? People message them all the time. The thing is, like, most of the people that don't look that great, they don't get very many messages. And an even random, decently attractive girl gets dozens all the goddamn time, even though she's not dangling shit. She just like posted her and her dogs, and it's like, hey, what are you up to? I love you. They get that shit all the time. There's a massive, real asymmetry in the amount of beneficial attention that they get. And also, there's negative attention too.
Sure.
Everyone gets some.
Absolutely. Like, compare the messages that Tess Holiday gets versus Tammy Slayton gets versus like Jennifer Lopez get. Like, they are all, I guess, on some level going to. To some people, all three of these women are attractive, but there are going to be wildly varying differences in the amount of messages that these people get.
Some kind of negative attention. It sure is nice to get negative attention born out of jealousy. Like guys that will call girls the S word, SLUT. I don't know if we're allowed to say that. Does YouTube detect like
we
speaking reference to the dogs stuff?
We you.
Yeah, there we go.
Nothing wrong with sluts.
Then you can say like, oh, he's just jealous, right? It's a very different thing to get criticized for something you also agree with the critic about. Like, you're ugly. You know you're ugly. That hurts way, way, way deeper than like, oh, that guy's just coping. And so there is, to some extent, not to underweight it, there are definitely cultural variations, there are historic variations, but if you look at the variations, you're unlikely to find a lot of like radical discordance from just average. So for example, you look at like what the like pre-Meiji Restoration Japan's most attractive kind of girl looked like. Yeah, she could get it today, man. She could get it from almost anybody. Little 110-pound thing with whatever, little body. Yeah, hell yeah, line them up. Where in culture do we see grotesquely hideous, wildly overweight, and not the fun big hips and ass way, but the big butt way? Where do we see those women being?
Absolutely, because that goes back to what I was saying, that there is a certain, like, to a point, there is a certain standard of everyone in every culture, there is a certain level of attractiveness. Like, you're not going to find, like, a Quasimodo-esque looking human being as the gold standard for any culture, right? Like, if there are, I've never heard of them.
Vaunted as, like, the most
attractive. Is this strictly a
just
conversation about weight?
No.
But that seems to be like the prime example here. Because if we
Weight's a big deal.
let's remove the weight as an example and talk about height in men, right? Because that's a factor that's been studied.
Yeah.
I like in a child who, let's say, is lacking growth hormone. We worry like, oh, we should supplement growth hormone in this child because they have a deficiency, and we worry about them developing a very short stature, which could be intervened with and helped with by giving them growth hormone. But and at the same time, if we had, let's say, some knowledge and we say, oh, this child is going to grow up 5'6" versus 6, we're not going to be like, oh my God, by all means, get him to 6 because that's going to change his life.
You will though.
But that's the question. Will it?
Yeah.
Or are you studying after the fact of judging it and putting...
Again, I don't think that you can like compare height to this. You could really use height as a point in this conversation either, because there are still some very attractive short men. Like, again, attractiveness, I mean, granted, I'm not a woman, but I am gay, and attractiveness does not really, like, height doesn't really fall on the scale of attractiveness that creates value for me in another person. So maybe it's just a me thing, and I don't know, weigh that option or weigh that in my choices of partners, but yeah, I don't know. Again, there are so many attractive short people out there.
Putting this out into the world.
Oh, I'm not judging it. Women that say yes or no when you ask them on dates judge it, and you can see this on OkCupid studies and all that stuff. You know, like, so I don't remember the figure offhand, and somebody correct me in the comments, but I think for every extra inch of height a man has, in order to become equally as attractive at that lower height, he has to make like $50,000 or $100,000 more a year, or something totally insane.
Is that true? Like, who? I don't know. I exist in the real world, and there are so many short men who seemingly are in these perfect, or not perfect, but, you know, as perfect as you can be, relationships that are great, who find partners, loving partners. I don't know if I trust, every time they like mention a study like on shows like this, I just don't know how believable those studies are to me, because I look at the real world around me, and I guess you could say it's anecdotal experiences, but it's just like, the real world doesn't reflect your study.
Overcompensate that. And so you don't have to tell a 5'6" kid, like, hey kid, you know, short end of the stick, literally a little bit. You have to say that. That's toxic. It promotes the wrong kind of attitude. But if he was like, hey, is me being taller going to make me more likely to girls that I like say yes to me when I ask them out on dates? Categorically, the answer is yes.
Sure,
and if you don't tell them that, you are foisting upon them a great illusion that does them no good. You're trying to boost their self-esteem by giving them the big lie. And the big lie is like, well, look, height doesn't matter, the depth of your voice doesn't matter, your hairline doesn't matter, your income doesn't matter, your looks don't matter. After a while, you're like, why the hell do people like anyone ever at all? And the reality is all these things matter, and they're true, and they're real, and they're profound.
They matter in terms of getting variety, but does it matter on a scale long-term of a life, of happiness, of finding a partner, period? Do we see profound loneliness in someone who's 2 inches shorter?
Yeah, massive loneliness in physically unattractive women, massive loneliness. There's this whole thing called incels, right? There's real people. If you are male and you are like below 5'3", the probability that you get any room of 5+ to go on a date with you is teeny tiny.
I just don't see that as true, but maybe it's because, I mean, I'm 5'11", so I don't know if that's true or not. Huh.
As if you were 6'3", it would be like way bigger. I don't personally give a fuck about height at all. I think I was in my late 20s when I learned that height is statistically attraction factor for women. I literally just didn't know that my whole life. I couldn't care less.
Exactly.
So did that help you, not knowing? Because now you're telling everyone.
Yeah.
So what if, like, when you were 12, you heard this conversation, and I'm like, you don't grow. Your life's gonna suck. Would that have helped you to get to where you are today?
So that statement right there is so exaggeratory that it borders on being false.
In what sense? You just said that.
It's not gonna suck. It's gonna be worse than if you were taller. And then they go.
But then there's so many other variables.
Totally, exactly.
Life is so
they go, okay, I'm not winning it on height. Like, nah, you're not. So I better like work extra hard at school and maybe get into some hobbies and really push some other ways so that I can have all these very pretty girls saying yes to me. And
that's not the end be all to life.
But also that falls on the kid's nature in itself, because a kid who doesn't have the drive or like the nature to, like, you know, see an obstacle and like want to push themselves over the obstacle to get better or to like strive for better. If they don't have that nature, then they're just going to take that information and they're going to, like, you know, they're going to turn it into hurt. They're going to turn it into something else. They're going to turn it inward, and it's going to metastasize and like turn into like a weird. That might actually create more incel-like behavior. I mean, there's so many variables.
Said by someone who eats a lot.
Right. It's not ideal that I'm the one having this conversation, but scientifically, that's not the end all to be all to happiness. If that was, then the people who just date pretty women would statistically have the highest happiness levels.
It's a part of it. It's a part of it. And let me give you another example. How do you pick an excellent partner? There's actually one true thing about this, is you get to know lots of people, and only through getting to know and dating lots of people can you ever possibly tell what you like in a person. Because it's all pretend until you're like sitting on the couch with them and you're 6 months into dating them and you're like, okay, they look great. There's a huge mismatch on hobbies and interests. Next girlfriend, I'm gonna make sure there's not that mismatch. You gotta sample. And if your sample size is one person ever said yes to on your date, the probability that you settle and end up with them is higher, and the probability that that person is much closer to your ideal match is way, way lower, and thus the probability that you have a not so ideal relationship is also way, way lower.
I don't know if that's true, because if you look at grocery store shelves and you see 10 options for ketchup, you have more options than 2. But if you had 2, statistically, you're probably happier with your choice, because you're like, oh, well, I know I don't like that one, I like this one. But when there's 10, you're like, oh, well, do I want this one or do I want that one? It's like the mantra of some options are better than none, more options aren't better than some.
That's true in an acute sense. If you're just standing there and you're overwhelmed with options. But if you try a bunch of different ketchups all the time, eventually you're going to be like, this is amazing. Where did this come from? You're like, oh, they make it in Denmark. Do you want a box so you can have a lot of it? Yep. Now, every time you go to another restaurant, they don't have that ketchup. They're like, you're not eating ketchup. You're like, I don't have any ketchup. That's not my shit. And like, how did you find that out? Well, I tried a lot of ketchups. If ketchup is really meaningful to you, and I think long-term committed relationships are probably really meaningful, you're going to want a bigger sample size. Just mathematically enhances the probability that you will get the outcome that you're looking for 2 ways. 1, the chance that you'll randomly find a person that's your person goes up, literally scaled linearly down how many people you date. And 2, how you know yourself as a person in a relationship. It's a big deal. Who you are in a relationship is a little bit different than who you are just casually. You might not know who you are as a relationship. You might not even know what you want. If you've never tried many relationships, you're going to have a really shit sample size, and you're not going to be able to pick a person as well as if you had lots of people to choose from. So that doesn't mean that someone can't meet and then after 2 dates, like, this is it, we're good. That happens 100%. But what I want for people is, let's say I get to know someone who's a coworker, and she just looks like this, the wrong look, right? Just the wrong look. And I know her because I work with her all the time. She's so goddamn beautiful on the inside. She's 28, she's 29, she's 30, no one. She wants marriage, she wants children. I want her to look like she wants to look, so that she can start dating people in higher numbers and, much more importantly, in higher quality bandwidth, and then really get pick of the litter because she's so goddamn wonderful. I want her to have the best. I want her to have something that's ungated by her physical appearance. And physical appearance is a problem we can just solve. We just solve it. So why not solve it?
I think the issue becomes, again, with the rarity aspect. I think the reason is we found a hierarchy with this genetic distribution of looks, and we've tied it to something culturally. The same way that, like, there was an improvement in bags over the years. Some bags became sturdier, the materials changed, there's innovation. And then we've gotten to the point where, like, let's just release less of a certain one and that one's going to be special. So once everyone starts looking the same aesthetically, there'll be a new way.
I didn't say the same.
Well, not the same, meaning the same level of whatever it is.
There'll be
a new hierarchy that forms.
Exactly.
Oh, totally. But
which is why focusing on intrinsic is way more valuable, because irrespective of what happens in the world, whatever the cultural norm, whatever lip size is popular in a given moment, whatever suit style is, it doesn't matter. So, like, it's irrespective of where cultural norms shift or biological norms shift, because those two adapt.
So cultural norms also affect people's assessments of intrinsic value. If you were in the culture of the 1940s and 50s in the United States, complacency as a female would be culturally very, very high regard. Independence and ruthlessness, like my wife has, would be like, ugh, she sucks. That stuff also changes. So you could spend a lot of time upgrading your internals only to find out that there's a cultural shift and your internals are now.
But the cultural don't matter. You're talking about societal successes versus internal happiness and fulfillment, joy, more lasting.
None of this is to argue against internal work.
But I think arguing.
But I guess you could say that internal work is also dependent on what you find valuable, which can be depicted, which could be predicated by the culture that you're in, right?
Even to the degree that you're arguing for aesthetics, actually hurts the internal work.
Why?
Because the focus shifts. You have limited focus, just like you have limited time in life. So if you're going to be talking about, focus on what you want to look like, focus on changing your aesthetic. Your time is limited, your focus is limited. Your focus is now on something that's ever changing, that's delegated by perhaps whoever is at the head of Hollywood in a given moment.
And that's not how any of that works, by the way.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry. So Hollywood can't carte blanche choose what the trend is. The trend is usually contained in a very small box of what is acceptable to look like attractive-wise, and then there are slight variations that bounce around with there based on a bunch of inputs and some decision by people to front certain people. But there's all sorts of people at Hollywood. They're like, yeah, here's the new hot girl, and no one gives a shit. And there's some times where, like, the new look is kind of wacky, and they're like, I guess this is who's popular. Go put her on stage or whatever. There's no one at the...
Right. It's like, I don't know if Hollywood creates the who's attractive, like, motif, but they definitely ride the wave.
The top deciding. Magazines almost never decide what's attractive. They're really just really good at writing trends, and sometimes not even so good at writing trends. So I don't think it's nearly a top-down hierarchical system as it is classically we're educated to believe that it is. Many people go around thinking that the reason we have beauty standards is because the magazines made like just randomly propped up like Skinny Girls or whatever. That's 90% wrong, 10% right. It absolutely matters, but to a very, very tiny percent. Most of it is deeply biological, deeply ingrained, and is really not cultural at all. And that stuff some people lack in such a huge regard that they can make and should make all of the upgrades in their own brain of how they feel about themselves. But how you feel about yourself only gets you so far. The sure shit gets you internal happiness, but it can leave you bereft of meaningful human interactions, like romantic interactions, like acceptance in a deep way by someone who's assessing your body and face and telling you you're wonderfully beautiful, which you just can't get unless somebody else thinks you're beautiful. And no amount of pizzazz and riz is going to cross the line with everyone. And that if you actually look, to use it.
But you're also not trying. I mean, I guess you're not trying to have everyone find you attractive unless that's your thing, and that's, I feel like, is very unhealthy. But again, it's like all you really need is to have one person who you find attractive also find you attractive.
Term you used earlier is not broken. It's going to be a real thing. Now here's the thing. If you tell young people the only thing that matters is how you look, And if you just get these surgeries and these genetic upgrades, your life's going to be serene. You're selling people a lie. That's a stupid, like Hollywood transformation line, like 13 going on 30 type of shit. It's wrong. Of course it's wrong. But if you tell them, hey, work on your inner self and beauty externally doesn't matter, it's the same kind of lie in reverse. They both matter. And I like to treat people as
when you say they matter, what's your definition of matter?
Matter to you and how awesome of a life you're going to live, and are you going to get
what's awesome life?
So how you feel day to day, like you're writing in your diary, I feel great in here. And the other one is like, do I have a family? Do I have people around me that are awesome? Do I get to go to dance clubs and like walk around and dance with people? Like, isn't it fun going to a dance club and just dancing with different people?
Yeah, that's
for sure. But what if it's for me and I don't look like it's for me?
I'm sure you'll find a place where you can dance and people will find you awesome if you're a great dancer.
Why do I have to find a place, a 1 out of 50, a 1 out of 100 place where they
Because everyone is doing that.
No,
everyone's finding their place.
No.
Yeah, I think they are.
Attractive people are welcome everywhere except for 1 in 50 places where they look too vanilla.
Yes, or it functions the other way, and there could be predators that are negatively impacting them. Certain girls don't feel comfortable walking on the streets because of the way that they look. So, like, there's variables that shift in life, and like why we're hyper focused on that variable's interesting, I guess.
Biological.
I would say. When you say biological, what are you looking at?
It's Do you remember the first time you were attracted to female breasts?
First time, no.
Okay, sweet, I do. It's not a thing.
You're gonna start telling me a breastfeeding story, right?
You think it was feeding related? How dare you?
I don't know.
Well, it was. How did you know that?
You said you like to eat.
Pause the interview.
Now I'm picturing both of them like breastfeeding, which I'm not sure I'm okay with.
Literally, I see what's drinking. Really, it comes out of the cell. You're like, I think you need to go to the doctor. I don't think it's supposed to.
Also, to be fair, Dr. Mike Israetel or Muscle Mike looks a little bit like a baby, like a muscular little baby, and so I could kind of unfortunately see him breastfeeding.
Solid. It's okay. When I was, I was probably 10. One of my acquaintances at a Jewish community center camp in the locker room for the pool was like, hey, Mike, do you like girls yet? And I was like, gee whiz, I sure do, mister. And exactly that voice, 1950s kid voice. And he was like, like, tell me about, like, what kind of girls you like. And I was like, well, they have to be real special, And he's like, you don't like girls yet. In a few years, you're going to like every girl. And I was like, no, I won't, because I'm special. And he's like, okay, kid. And then, like, when I turned, like, 12 or 13, whatever the hell, when I saw it for the first time, I was like, oh, shit, I do like most girls at this point in that way. It was not something that seemingly came from the societal ether. We actually know it doesn't come from the societal ether. If you give your dog a toy, he has no other dogs to look at. He's going to grab it, and he's going to do this one. Completely genetically programmed behavior. It's to disassemble the spinal cord.
Do that motion again?
It actually hurts my head a little bit to do that, but for you, I did it twice. So I have other motions I do with my head, which you might find in private even better. Forward and back ones, Mike, in case you were filling the blanks. But also side to side. I stopped, I swear. Okay. So there are many, many things
Woodwatch. Sorry.
about our human nature, which are biologically driven and biologically expressed. They do not require consent, and they take some modification for culture, but only at the margins. And so, in the same way that nobody tells you, like, you're going to like breasts, it's not like you were reading a magazine and you were like, current literary criticism says I should like spherical objects. Well, here we go. It's guttural, it's deep, it's automatic. That's how most people's assessment of attractiveness writ large is. And it's something you program into people, which is how cultural universals are discovered. Like, why in God's name is a girl that's considered highly attractive in India also very likely to be considered very highly attractive literally anywhere else? I mean, Indian girls are gorgeous, that's not here nor there, but goddamn, how these cultures, like, this is also true in pre-industrial times. There's no communication between cultures. And so what is considered attractive mostly for very well understood biological reasons, detection of fertility, health, youth, etc. And it is one of these things that if you have it, dope. But then you have almost nothing else, and all of your points completely apply. Like, the rest of life is like, okay, you don't have happiness, you're just hot. You have to deal with a bunch of assholes and predators and people DMing you and people making it seem like they're interested in up here, but they're really interested in here and here, 100%. But if you are the opposite of hot, if you are very undesirable looking, the stack is so against you in so many ways that fixing that problem just fixes the problem and allows you to enter into the conversation for the kinds of problems everyone else has to deal with. Problems you also deal with, but you also deal with sexual problem. I don't know what people have to deal with sexual problems. It's a small problem. Let me give you an example. Dental work. Everyone used to have teeth back in the day. So we fix people's teeth. Why do we do that? I mean, you could say, like, look, like, society tells you people have perfect teeth. That's not true. Snaggletooth, you're totally great. Like, it's dope. Or you could just take your 8-year-old who has messed up teeth in the year 2025 and be like, we're just going to get these fixed. We're just going to fix it.
Well, there's health benefits to getting them fixed.
There are so many health benefits to losing a substantial amount of adiposity.
Well, if you were telling me the reason that you want people aesthetically to change is because it's good for their metabolic health, that's one conversation.
Yeah.
You telling me that they have to stack against them otherwise is a different conversation.
Sure, but most people don't get kids' teeth fixed due to the health benefits. They get them fixed for the aesthetic benefits because the kids don't want to grow up getting people make fun of them for their nasty teeth. Most of the way braces are constructed is from an aesthetic perspective. I mean, if your teeth are still functional, how many kids get braces in non-functional teeth? Like, very few. That's an orthodontics problem. That's like 1 in 10. Most people get braces. Your teeth are just misaligned and you want to look better.
Well, because if they misalign at childhood, by the time you're in adulthood, your jaw changes, impacts breathing, eating, etc.
This much, unless you.
We gotta be careful to not come outside of our field of specialty.
Totally. But like,
we're already doing it.
I mean, to be fair, like, I've known, including family members who have gotten adult braces, which is always an interesting choice. But yeah, it's totally aesthetic. I don't think I've ever heard of any kind of like medical a need for a medical procedure or medical needed braces.
by having this conversation.
Oh, for sure. But aesthetics matter. They matter deeply to people because even though it would be cool if we all switch off our aesthetometer, like I would do it instantly. Like if I could just switch that part of my brain off and I would stop appraising other people as attractive or not or whatever on the spectrum, if everyone could do it, if kids could do it, it'd be wonderful. That's not the reality of the world at all. There's another argument here. People will say like, inequality is a problem. Inequality is actually not a problem. Straight up not a problem in a very narrow lens of analysis. Because the only problem is how do the poorest people in society live? Like, what is their standard of living? Because anything north of that, basic needs, is just like irrelevant. We already discussed it, right? And so, but still, people, because we're animals that are hierarchical, have kind of like a little bit of a problem with people making $1 gazillion and other people making much less. And you can tell them, hey, inequality doesn't matter. That's probably a little bit easier to intellectualize, but still insanely difficult to do in a much, much deeper way. You can tell people, look, how you look doesn't matter. But it does because everyone thinks it does, and they think it does, and they can't just brainwash themselves into thinking it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's much easier.
I think you're functioning on two extremes, like this false dichotomy. Either you tell them it doesn't matter at all, or you tell them that it matters so significantly that they have the deck stacked against them. And I don't think it's either of those. And I think it's going to be a spectrum, and that spectrum is largely influenced by their own perceived notion of whatever that stack is.
The dating thing's not influenced hardly at all by what their perception is.
If someone feels super demotivated by the way they look, and they're not actively seeking a...
See, I don't know if I fully agree with that because someone... Okay, let's go back to this person. With how she presents herself in the world, and with her personality, if she didn't have the personality that she had, but instead she had the personality of, let's say, of Lizzo, if she actually acted and had the personality of Lizzo, I guarantee you that people would find her way more attractive than how they currently do. I think there is a certain level where, like, yes, attractiveness will get you so far, or like the way you look gets you so far, but also the way in which you exist in your level of attractiveness is also a huge component.
Other people's companionship. Oh yeah, it is.
As a male, yeah, but as a female, most of the shit comes to you and you don't have to go looking for it. So as a female, if you feel demotivated and you're hottest, your DMs are full of that shit. If you're feeling really motivated and you're hottest, your DMs are still full of that shit.
You're saying on the lower end of the aesthetic.
Yeah, on the lower end of the aesthetic, you could feel all sorts of ways about how awesome you are, and the DMs are still empty. Or they're full of just perverts and people who don't want to go any further than you and just sending you a pic, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I feel like we're jumping to another assumption.
Yeah.
How do you know that it's true? I wish we had an evolutionary.
I wish we could bring up
sociologist.
sure, you feel free to get one of those people. It's to me true on two different levels. One is a level of not some personal, but mostly vicarious experience. Talking to people that were in their younger years substantially unattractive, you get a taste of what life really is like. Lots of grains of salt in there.
Sure.
Yeah. And also on the statistical level of we know how people interact with people that are unattractive, and it's different than how they interact with attractive.
So we're also talking about extremes of people on the lower end, but you're saying that if you're somewhere in the middle, you're in the bell curve, that this conversation won't really apply.
It applies to you on a marginal level. So like if you're a 4 and you want to feel life like an 8, just feel free to upgrade to an 8. But if you're a 1, and
to be honest with you, I don't even know, like, if, I mean, granted, maybe it's just me again, but growing up in school, up until under high school, I don't know if I saw anyone as ugly. Like, I don't know if I actually saw any of my classmates as ugly. But, I mean, once you hit puberty and, like, you start developing or whatever, there definitely is, like, a change, but I don't know, maybe that's just a me thing, though.
And someone's like, do you want to be a 10? Almost no one answers no to that for very good reason. So it's one of those things like, if someone is so weak, to use an analogy, but they can't get up out of a chair, how important is strength training? It's life-saving. If someone wants to put an extra 10 pounds in their already world record squat total, how important is it? It's not, but it still matters, right? It just matters more and more and more the bigger the disparity is. And I think that these kinds of aesthetic things, if you're like an 8 or a 7 and you read the book, you're going to be like, oh, this is a dope book. I love it. It's great vibes, great advice. It's not going to really hit. If you read it as having at some point in your life or currently been, let's say, a 2 or a 3 or 4, zing. You're going to go, holy shit. That right there has some weight to it, because it does.
And how would you, in this book, recommend people to get aesthetically on your level?
So again, super clarification. I said this once before, but it bears repeating. None of this is prescriptive. I agree with you entirely that the inner self matters way more than the outer self, for sure. But I also know that people care about what their outer self matters, and so I'm kind of like, well, if you want to upgrade your look, God bless you. Here's how to do it. You don't have to do it at all, but here's how to do it. So here's how to do it.
I mean, you're on one hand saying, if you want to do it, here's how you can do it, which I think is a totally reasonable message because people have these interests and want to get stronger, faster, bigger, whatever. But then on the other hand, if you say, like, look how bad life is if you don't do this.
Not life, certain elements of life.
Which then ends up being huge life factors, like you pointed out, companionship, how awesome it is to go to a club and have someone dance with you.
Yeah.
So, like, significantly will impact your life in a bad way.
Yeah.
And then say, but if you want to do it. Well, it's like you just went on to tell me how awful things will be if I don't do these things.
And things will be. Things are likely to be. But this is all averages and all bell curves all the way down. You could be a girl that weighs 400 pounds, androgen obesity. You just got balls for balls of confidence, and you like being iconoclastic. and you're also a professional dominatrix, and you're in the fetish scene, and you're a goddess and a queen, and someone's like, do you want to be skinny or whatever? You're like,
Why does she have to be a dominatrix though? Like, what? Okay, I feel like you've taken it just a little bit too far with that example. Maybe.
fuck no, how would I do that? Also, I lose a shitload of money because most of my clients like me this big. Are you? Is your
That's a really that's the extreme version of that for you. That's
an extreme version.
You have to be a dominatrix. You have to go to these ridiculous. Like you're basically saying, join the circus or do my boosting of.
I don't
aesthetics.
remember when I said you had to do that, Mike.
But you're saying that you gave an example.
Just as an example.
But like, is there a less extreme?
Example.
Can we not?
Yeah, sure.
Like, what's a?
Go 100%.
Yeah.
You don't look so great on the outside. You don't have a very high sex drive. You met the person that was going to be your lover forever when you were both 12 respectively, and it became sexual when you were 17. And you work at Microsoft, and you work in AI, and you work on the Azure platform, and you've got everything you need, and everything's awesome, and your partner's awesome.
Got it. And then who's the person, again, not extreme, that would benefit from doing this program?
Someone who has really done a lot of work and has a lot of their life really stapled together super well, but is missing that external attractiveness factor that they've always wanted and never could have. Because some people just want it more.
Sure.
Like, I could have wanted to be 6'3" my whole life. And like, who's to tell me that that's bad? Dope, kid, here's, get the bone growing shit and you're good to go. If that's what you want, amazing. What I'm saying is that tens of millions of women and men want that. They do. They really actually do want it. Some a ton, some a little bit, most people in between somewhere. And so the utility you'll get out of the aesthetic revolution ranges from literal zero to be like, I don't give a shit, all the way to this is the most life-changing and impactful thing that has ever happened to me, period. And that's real. But it's everything in between.
Mm-hmm. So what's the plan?
All right. You just download my app and you pay me money. No, I'm not an engineer. I don't know what happens between then and
Got it.
I just know I get paid.
Tracking. Got it.
This was an amazing talk, Michael. Thank you for having me on. It's www.mikesapp.com/pay me.
We got to be careful because who's app that? That's someone's website.
Do you think that that's Mike's app?
Yeah, same. Who owns?
Hold on. Let's try to go there. www.mikesapp.com. Hold on. Let me make sure this isn't anything bad first. Okay, nope. We're good. We're good. We're good. It is just... It is just a website. You can buy the domain.
It's MikeSapp.com.
That's MikeSapp.com.
No,
Don't give Mike Sapp any money.
Everyone's gonna like Mike Sapp will make me beautiful.
Thank God. Oh, look, aesthetics matter, but $695. Jesus.
Back to the interview in just a second, but first I want to talk to you about Incogni, a
Boop,
product
boop,
that creator
boop,
certification.
don't
Automatically
care,
listing it
don't
for
care.
the
So
clock,
sorry,
a dashboard
Dr.
where you can
Mike.
track the progress and see
Use
how many
Dr.
lists have
Mike.
been
Use
removed.
code
In a
Mike.
constantly
Use
evolving
code
era of
Dr. Mike.
cybersecurity,
Use
having someone like
the
Incogni
code.
going
Do
to
the
bat for
thing.
you behind the scenes can deliver some serious link in the episode description box. All right, let's get back to the other Dr. Mike.
There are multiple things that you can do to upgrade your look. And I'm going to list them. I think they're like, offhand, like 6 or something. I split them into like roughly 6 categories. And they're also scaled in time of how over history and over current and over future time, we've gained tractions on these things. So the first basic one is training. So if you do enough physical activity and you do resistance training, just regular normal lifting, then you're able to upgrade your muscularity, reduce your body fat percentage, and it makes most people more aesthetically pleasing to the average, right? Just straight up. It gives you all the cool curves and all that stuff. So that's great. That's ingredient one. Very easy to do. Most people can get all of the aesthetics that most people want with like 2 workouts a week, each taking 20 to 30 minutes if done right. No problem. The next one is diet. So here's nothing. We know a lot about training for aesthetics. I don't want to say we know everything about it, but God, we know a ton. Like we have a real good understanding of that problem space. Like if you're sitting next to me on a plane and you're like, so like lifting, have you figured out how lifting, like why, like, how do I lift to grow muscle? Is that like a solved problem or is it super mysterious? And be like, if that's solved, but like, ooh, well on our ways. I'm gonna give you 5 points right now. They're just gonna take really good care of you. The next is dietary control. Huge. Dietary control has a bigger impact on aesthetics than lifting does on average by several factors, mostly because the number one reason that the average person isn't as aesthetic they would want to be today in Western society and modern society is that they're overfat, which is a technical term, or overweight, obese, etc. And so diet can just crush out your body fat stores to a huge extent, and that's a big deal. So getting your diet right, the book's going to have all these excellent, super simplified, basic recommendations for how to eat, long-term, sustainable, super healthy, that will shrink your fat. So far we got some muscle growth, we got some fat loss. What are we left with next? For many people, that's just it, man. Like you look amazing, awesome. There is another thing that's been around for a while, but is getting much better now, and that's cosmetic surgery. There are numerous reasons to get cosmetic surgery. The simplest ones to understand in this context, if we're saying, okay, we're going to use all of these things in succession. First, we lift weights, we get some muscle, cool. Then we start dieting, we burn the fat, cool. If you have more than, depending on your frame size, like 20 to 30 pounds of excess fat on you at any one point, also depending on how it's distributed, you can get some loose skin after you lose it. And loose skin does resorb over time, and with some external cream modalities that are non-pharmaceutical, but just a teeny bit. And so you could get, for example, skin excision surgery, which I just had recently and I'm still recovering from. It's been traumatic, but thanks for asking, Mike.
Sorry, I zoned out. What did he say? What kind of surgery? Did he say circumcision? What did he say?
And if you don't care about skin excision surgery,
Oh,
which
skin
I just had
excision.
recently and I'm still
Ooh.
recovering from, it's been traumatic, but thanks for asking, Mike. And if you don't care about my feelings. Anyway, and so all of a sudden, because here's the thing, people will go from 400 pounds to 150 pounds. People do this all the time. I mean, it's incredibly rare, but we have so many people that you see this on Instagram over and over. And a lot of people think I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to look phenomenal, and they look so much better. It's unbelievable. They take their shirts off and there's just loose hanging skin everywhere. That is a tractable problem that aesthetic surgery can solve. The solution's not perfect. They get better all the time. It's like what aesthetic surgery looked like in the late 80s. Like, that was considered like brutal and not ideal. In the late 2020s, holy crap, they got robot surgery now. They got compounds that like weird like stitching inside that helps you heal way faster. All this really cool shit. So you can excise fat cells so that they can't regrow bigger. You can a variety of surgical techniques can make the skin tighter, and that's amazing. So if we take a person, and I do this in the book through a kind of long story that I weave, we take a fictional character who was 450 pounds at the beginning, and at the end like a 175 or something like that, and we say, okay, she got more muscle, then she basically lost most of her fat. And then it's potentially surgery time to kind of, draw down the skin on the arms, the legs, the tummy, so on and so forth. And at some point, that gains you lots of traction. But for many people, it doesn't go as far as we'd like, because some people have the kind of genetics that makes fat loss dieting profoundly difficult due to high levels of food noise, of a huge food drive, or they have levels of musculature.
That's me. No, I've actually considered taking I've actually considered getting on ADHD medication for ADHD, but also to help with the food noise, because I heard that Vyvanse helps with the food noise. I've also considered getting on Zepbound to help with the food noise, because food noise is, I don't know if you can tell, but I am a chunkier human being, and though I diet and I do exercise and everything, I have a hard time not binge eating because of the food noise, because it's just like constantly in my head. But I digress. Let's go back to this.
That are capped genetically at very low levels. They may want to be significantly more muscular, but they just can't do it. And those people are real. And so we have another thing, which is now an exploding field, is drugs. Modern pharmaceutical inventions for the purpose of body composition enhancement. And that doesn't end with just like growing muscle and burning fat. It goes all the way into what are called exercise mimetics, which are currently, several of them are in various stages of FDA approval. What is an exercise mimetic? It's a pill that you take that maybe does biochemically what 50 to 65% of all of the things exercise does for you, but it's just in a pill. Now, this shit is real. If anyone's interested, Google azelaprag. You can't buy it yet. It's a research chemical. And you read about what it does, and you're like, this is a real thing that does this.
I saw it on Mike Sapp's website.
It's a great website. And a phenomenal app. It's only accessed by money. Do you want to split it with me?
Yeah.
It's Mike's app. Like, which Mike? Like, just Mike.
No, Mike's
App. Apostrophe.
No.
After. Yeah.
That way we share.
Yes, of course. So on the drug side, you have drugs, of course, like tirzepatide, for example, because it's easy to tell someone, hey, do a diet. And then they have like psychotic hunger 3 weeks later, and they're like, realistically, this is not going to work for me. I can't even think it work anymore. You take something like tirzepatide, you're well on your way. The drug wave is just cresting up right now oh man, these predictions get really tough for a reason I'll tell you right now. I can separate drugs into, there are many more classes in this, but 3 classes of drugs are instructive. There are drugs, this is some of the stuff that you know pretty well, biologics, right? Like, you don't just take them. A lot of times you have to go to the hospital to get them infused. If you take them, they're like, do not drop this vial, keep it in a cool environment. It's $10,000. There are biologics that do crazy shit to your body, but they're not realistic. And they can become realistic with like a 10-year research pipeline. But what's happening right now is, as some of these biologics are in phase 2 and 3 trials, they already have small molecule drugs that are as good as the biologics, but they're oral, super cheap, insanely easy to manufacture, and they could eventually cost what like blood pressure drugs do, like nominally, like Rite Aid's, like it's $9 for a 90-day supply. And I don't even know how anyone makes money selling this shit, like miracle shit. Then there's one last one. And that I'm going to save for a little bit later, and that's genetic engineering. Like, if you have a thing with your cells, which is like, they make you hungry all the time from your DNA, why don't you change your DNA? So that's downstream. Predicting what drugs are going to be like in 5 years is tough, because you could be like, man, we're all going to be taking awesome biologics in 5 years, but actually we're going to be taking small molecules. But actually, halfway through stage 2 of small molecule research, we can actually hit the DNA itself. We don't even need to be selling drugs.
That would actually be pretty cool, honestly. Like, if there's a way that you could actually change or just like morph your DNA, which that's so weird. I mean, it's so fascinating to think about. But if there's a way that you can actually change your DNA, or to like change what's going on inside your body to that drastic of a degree, I mean, I'm kind of excited. I'm horrified and terrified of what's going to happen in the future, considering the state of our current climate, like political climate and everything. But as far as like science goes, I'm really excited for that.
Drugs. So these waves.
Well, actually, guys, I'm going to call it for the night. Not only am I getting tired, I actually need to get off here so I can spend some time with the husband and wind down and get ready for bed and stuff. I may hop back on here tomorrow to finish this out, or hey, we are about halfway through, so probably finish it out tomorrow or Saturday. But yeah, let's have a great rest of our nights. You are awesome. Thank you to those who tuned in. That was really fun to actually chat with some of y'all. It's the first time that's happened for me, and I think that's pretty cool. Again, like I've said in my last video, if you want to help me to quit my day job, subscribe, like the video, share it if you want. I would appreciate it. Anyway, you're cute, you're handsome, you're beautiful, all the things. Y'all have a great night. Okay, goodbye. Stop streaming.